people, it gives you a hell of a lot of leverage and influence.
It does.
A hell of a lot.
It does.
Phew, that was quite something. I've rarely met anybody with more energy, more charisma, more ambition. When I shook him by the hand and held him by the shoulder, he was literally vibrating, his muscles almost trembling.
Bueno, yo le dije que traten de no.
It's easy to talk about New York in cliches, its vibrancy, its energy, and so on and so forth. But we've seen the living, walking, breathing reality, and my goodness me, it's impressive.
Fernando is shot through with self-belief, the very incarnation of New York power. A man of the people who knows the rules of the game and all the major players.
You know, it's been a good news for you. I was able to meet with Mayor Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I explained to him that your crew was very interested in including him in the documentary. He can't guarantee anything because he is the mayor of the city, but we're hoping that it will happen.
I think we stand a good chance now. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm about to find out how strong New York's network of power really is. It was 8:46 on a clear autumn morning when the first plane hit the World Trade Center. I was British ambassador when the attack took place, and soon I found myself here at Ground Zero. And of all the memories I have of this city, that will remain with me forever. In 1,000 years' time, people will still speak of 9/11. It changed the way New Yorkers see themselves and the world.
The first thing that struck me was it was like a vision of hell. Smoke and steam coming up out of the ruins everywhere you looked. The whole thing, of course, was intended to be a massive blow against New York's power and prestige. And here we are, just over 10 years later, and it's all being rebuilt. It's all going up again. It's moving.
And it's huge, a statement to the world. This is the most ambitious development in the United States. One World Trade Center alone is running at a cost of $3.8 billion, making it the most expensive single building on Earth. With premium land on Manhattan at record prices, the only way to expand is up. This is the first building to be completed, Tower number 7.
I'm going to meet the most powerful woman in New York City. She's not a politician. She's not a hedge fund manager. She's an estate agent.
Manhattan is 23 square miles and has to find room for 4 million people every day, making competition over who gets what increasingly cutthroat. And in the thick of it is Marianne Tai.
Marianne?
How are you?
I'm extremely well.
Welcome to the World Trade Center.
Thank you so much for seeing me this afternoon.
Thank you so much for coming down.
It's quite emotional for me because I was here, not in New York, I was in D.C. on 9/11.
Such a great testament to both the city's resilience, but also its endless capacity for reinvention.
You have, I believe, been voted the most powerful woman in New York City.
Having power in New York is like having beauty in Hollywood. You know, wait 24 hours and there's somebody else that comes along.
Can I quote you on that? I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
But Marianne's influence will last a lot longer than that. She's been responsible for over 9 million square feet of New York construction, more than 4 times the Empire State Building.
But isn't land the very basis of everything in the city?
Well, if you asked me where I'd take my power, if there were sort of like buckets you could pick from, land is it in New York.
But you're doing something slightly different, aren't you?
We're the intersection of supply and demand.
Kind of matchmaker.
That's right. We are matchmakers is what we do. And we play it at a very high scale. And it's great because what it does is, first of all, it allows you to know people across all different parts of society.
As you rise in success, your network becomes more extensive, more exclusive,
Absolutely.
and more influential.
I mean, you need to go to a hospital, we represent that hospital. What do you need at the hospital? I mean, I could go down a list of every conceivable category.
Well, Marianne, you're the person to come to for anything.
And fortunately for me, Marianne has pulled a few strings to get me to the very top.
Whoa.
I'm glad to have returned to ground zero to find it is literally rising from the ashes. But the greatest power on Earth couldn't prevent the devastation of 9/11. No wonder rebuilding confidence in this city requires more than bricks and mortar. As the great American saying goes, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And in New York, that means security is now the overriding priority. Tens of millions have been spent transforming the country's largest police force, the NYPD. 1,000 officers are solely dedicated to counter-terrorism. And I've been given privileged access to its inner sanctum, the Executive Command Center, by the boss, New York's Police Commissioner, Ray Kelly.
9/11 changed an awful lot of things in New York City and throughout the world. We have, as a result of that horrific day, taken on the added responsibility of counterterrorism. This is where we put thousands of cameras into Lower Manhattan, about 3,000. They're accessible here. A call comes through and there is a suspicious vehicle. It'll come up here on this map if we click on it, and it will go to a camera that's within 500 feet of that particular incident.
So you could see, if you wish to, assuming you had cameras in place, of course, you could see a crime in progress, for example.
Yes, and we can go back. We keep all of this for 30 days.
Maximum 30 days you can wind back.
We built in that aspect to it because we knew that people were concerned of keeping film indefinitely. So
Commissioner Kelly's low-key manner belies an inner steel. A former Marine who once turned down the top job at the FBI to stay protecting this city.
We have people now stationed overseas. We have them in 11 cities, London included.
And it adds to your personal reach, doesn't it?
No question about it, the world has become a much smaller place. We're working now with agencies and entities that we certainly didn't work with prior to September 11th, and that includes a whole portfolio of foreign governance.
This vision of Orwellian surveillance is the price that New Yorkers must pay for feeling safe. A strange thought in the self-styled land of the free, but then we're all living under constant surveillance these days. Indeed, the irony is not lost on me that all this time I had been hoping against hope to film with the mayor, and he's been filming me all along.
I've got something to read you.
From Laura Sabatieri in Mayor Bloomberg's scheduling office. Wait for it. The mayor would be happy to do it.
We've landed the big one.
So on the final morning of my trip, with only a few hours before my flight home, I'm off to City Hall. Just time for a little more homework.
It's the climax of the week. We've only got 20 minutes. Everybody says this is the big man in the city. Anything short of a demigod is going to be a disappointment.
Morning. I got a date with the mayor.
Michael Bloomberg was born in Boston, but made his billions in New York out of the financial news service that carries his name. He paid for all his own political campaigns. And as mayor of New York, he earns just $1 a year.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it and all of the back and forth to get together.
Well, it's very, very kind of you to do this, and on your birthday. I'm told you're having a birthday cake at
this afternoon sometime?
I have no idea, but invariably they will. I went to breakfast this morning to meet a union leader, and it turned out it was a setup, and my senior staff were there in my favorite Greek diner where everybody speaks Spanish in this day and age. I don't know why it took so long to get it right.
You're a New Yorker, and you, as mayor of the city, you kind of represent the spirit of New York. What is the quintessential quality of this city?
It starts with the diversity of the population. When you walk down the streets of New York City, 40% of the people who live here that you'll see on the streets were born outside of America. The tradition of America is you come here without the skills that you need, you get the jobs, they may be low paying and hard working and inconvenient hours and all that sort of stuff, and you sit there and you say, you know, I'm never going to fulfill the great American dream, but my kids are going to college. My kids can be the next president of the United States. My kids can be rich.
I think we saw the living personification of what you've just said, because on Saturday we went out to see Fernando Mateo, the president of the...
I know Fernando very well.
So I gather...
He was at my house for dinner a couple weeks ago.
Oh, he was absolutely terrific, but he assembled for us a group of taxi drivers.
Yep.
And they must have come
all over the world.
From every
Absolutely.
continent, country.
And driving a taxi is not easy. You want to make some money, you got to put a lot of hours in.
Mr. Mayor, what drives this city forward? Is it, quote-unquote, Wall Street? Is it philanthropy? Is it new technology? What is it?
New York is the intellectual capital of America, and we probably are arrogant enough to say the world, although I'm sure the Brits wouldn't agree with us, but let's say we're tied. But I don't think it's any one industry. Finance is part of everything we do, so of course this will be a financial center, as will London, incidentally.
You're optimistic for the future of New York City? Sure. You're an optimistic person?
Yeah. For New York City, you can screw it up. Niall Ferguson, a Brit author, is a very smart guy, and he talked about how great societies don't slowly decline, they decline precipitously, and there's a tipping point. And my recollection is Rome, he said, in 10 years, really lost all control and power. And that's always a danger for London and the UK, for New York and America, for any place in the world.
Do you sometimes think of yourself as the mayor of a city-state?
I joke it's not quite true, but our police department always says it's the 7th largest army in the world. It's probably the 15th largest army in the world.
That's still big.
But it's still pretty big, sure. I would argue it is the best job that I know of in government. The president's got a very tough job, but I think in many senses he's got a tougher job, but I've got a better job.
That was pure power. It's running through his veins. It strikes me that he is what New York is. Workaholic, capitalist, philanthropic, perhaps a bit anxious, but above all, the heart of a giant network of power. It's that heady mix that has been the making of New York, and it will surely continue to power its future.